In the animal kingdom, there is a strict biological rule. You drink milk as a baby, and then you stop. Every single species on Earth follows this protocol, except for us. Adult humans are the only creatures that continue to consume the secretions of other species well into their senior years. It is a genuine biological anomaly. We have essentially hacked the operating system of nature. We are consuming a complete food, a liquid containing every nutrient necessary for survival that is normally reserved exclusively for newborns. It is a glitch in the system that we decided to keep, turning a biological impossibility into a multi-billion-dollar global industry. This is the story of how we survived harsh climates by deciding that animal secretions were a viable long-term dietary choice. To understand why this is strange, we have to look at the biological deadline. For almost every mammal, the body operates on a timer. During infancy, the small intestine produces an enzyme called lactase. Its only job is to break down lactose, the complex sugar found in milk, into simpler sugars that the body can actually absorb. But then the clock runs out. Once a baby animal is weaned, the genes responsible for producing lactase are switched off. This is a hard biological limit. For a standard adult human, milk is no longer food. It is a chemical irritant. When an adult without the enzyme drinks milk, the lactose arrives in the colon untouched. There it meets a colony of bacteria that view this undigested sugar as a feast. The result is a gastrointestinal disaster, bloating, cramps, and a sudden urgent need to find a bathroom. In nature, this is the body's way of saying, "You are an adult now. Stop drinking the baby food." It is a remarkably efficient, if somewhat cruel, biological clock. But milk wasn't just a random beverage, it was a precisely engineered survival tool. In the wild, lactose serves a critical evolutionary purpose. It provides a high-density energy source that allows a newborn to grow at an exponential rate. More importantly, it plays a role in birth spacing. The gradual decline of milk production and the baby's transition to solid food creates a natural gap between pregnancies, ensuring the mother doesn't exhaust her own biological resources. For the first few million years of human existence, we followed this rule perfectly. We were the standard mammals. We grew, we weaned, and we stopped. But as the climate shifted and the environment became less predictable, the high-calorie density of milk became an irresistible target. If you could find a way to access that liquid gold without the stomach trauma, you would essentially have a portable, nutrient-dense survival kit that didn't require killing the animal. Around 10,000 years ago, in the Fertile Crescent, the world shifted. Humans stopped simply hunting and started domesticating animals. It was a practical, if somewhat absurd, decision. They brought cows, sheep, and goats into their fold, and for the first time in the evolutionary history of mammals, one species decided that the liquid used for their own offspring's survival should become a consistently available source of calories. This was the same shift in domestication that turned wild beasts into livestock, creating a steady stream of protein and fat. However, there was a fundamental problem. The humans had the animals, and they had the milk, but their bodies were not actually equipped to handle it. They were effectively trying to run new software on ancient hardware. They had found a goldmine of calories, but their internal chemistry was still programmed to reject it. This created what historians call the lactose gap, a period where humans were milking animals long before they could actually digest the milk. This creates a genuine paradox. How do you build a civilization around a food that makes you violently ill? If you look at the archaeological record, early farmers were definitely milking their livestock, but they were also definitely suffering for it. It is a strange image, a Neolithic farmer carefully milking a goat, only to spend the next 4 hours in a state of digestive crisis. But humans are remarkably stubborn. We didn't stop milking the animals, We just looked for a workaround. We realized that if we let the milk sit and interact with certain bacteria, the lactose disappeared. This was the birth of fermentation. By turning milk into cheese or yogurt, early humans were essentially outsourcing their digestion to microbes. Small bacteria did the hard work of breaking down the lactose before it ever hit the human stomach. We didn't change our biology, we just hired bacteria to do the chemistry for us. This bacterial workaround was a game changer. Cheese and yogurt became the first hacked dairy products. They provided the protein and calcium of milk without the gastrointestinal war zone. This allowed early agricultural societies to store calories for the winter, something you cannot do with fresh milk, which spoils in a matter of hours. It is a fascinating bit of prehistoric chemistry. By manipulating acidity and temperature, humans created a stable food source that bypassed their own genetic limitations. We were effectively using fermentation as a biological bridge, allowing us to exploit a resource we were physically incapable of processing. This efficiency is what allowed early settlements to expand into colder, harsher climates where other food sources were scarce. We weren't evolving yet. We were just using clever cooking to trick our bodies. While fermentation worked, it was a slow process. Then the environment put on the pressure. In Northern Europe and parts of the Middle East, the climate shifted, and periods of extreme famine and disease hit. During these crises, those who could drink fresh milk without waiting for it to turn into cheese had a massive competitive advantage. This is where the biological turbocharge happened. A random genetic mutation occurred in a small group of people. Instead of the standard off switch for lactase production, this mutation kept the enzyme active into adulthood. It wasn't a sophisticated evolutionary leap, it was a desperate survival mechanism. If you were a farmer in a frozen wasteland and you could drink a bucket of raw milk without your stomach turning into a war zone, you were the one who survived the winter. This mutation spread with aggressive speed because the survival benefit was so high. Today, the numbers are revealing. Approximately 80% of people in Northern Europe have the gene for lactose tolerance. This is not a biological standard for the species, it is a historical accident of survival. We hacked our own biology to turn a calorie-dense liquid into a permanent survival tool. Looking at this today, the scale of the irony is immense. We live in a world where "Got Milk" was once a global marketing slogan, yet for the majority of the human race, milk is still a biological impossibility. Roughly 65% of the global population is lactose intolerant. It is a strange modern reality. We have built an entire global industry, a multi-billion-dollar infrastructure of refrigerated trucks and plastic jugs, to distribute a liquid that most of the people on Earth cannot actually process without significant discomfort. We have essentially normalized a genetic mutation that only a fraction of our ancestors possessed. For the rest of the world, the staple food of the West is essentially a chemical irritant. It is a very specific kind of cultural blindness to assume that the ability to digest milk as an adult is the default human setting. As we moved into the industrial era, our relationship with milk became even more complicated. In the 19th century, in rapidly growing cities like New York and London, the dairy industry became a nightmare of unregulated greed. This was the era of swill milk. To maximize profits, farmers fed cows distillery waste, essentially fermented grain mash, which turned the milk a sickly brownish color and stripped it of nutrients. To hide the foul smell and color, the producers added plaster of Paris, chalk, or even formaldehyde. This swill milk caused thousands of infant deaths, as the newborns, who were the primary consumers, were poisoned by the additives. It was a public health catastrophe that forced the invention of pasteurization. Louis Pasteur's process of heating milk to kill bacteria wasn't just about safety. It was a necessary response to a dairy industry that had become a toxic wasteland. We went from hacking biology with fermentation to hacking it with heat, all to keep a system running that was fundamentally based on an evolutionary glitch. Now we are seeing the cycle repeat itself. The dominance of animal milk is fading. We are transitioning into an era of plant-based alternatives, almond, soy, oat, which are essentially attempts to recreate the nutrient profile of milk without the biological baggage of lactose. It is a strange pivot. After 10,000 years of fighting our own biology to drink animal secretions, we are now spending billions of dollars to make liquids that taste like milk but don't actually come from a mammal. We have moved from the Fertile Crescent to the laboratory. This leaves us wondering if the goal was ever actually about the nutrition, or if we were just obsessed with the specific flavor and texture of a liquid we were never meant to drink. We spent millennia changing our DNA to fit the food, and now we are changing the food to fit our DNA. Humans are the only creatures on this planet that drink milk as adults. For most of the world, this remains a biological impossibility. Roughly 65% of the global population is lactose intolerant. We are a species that spent thousands of years domesticating animals in the Fertile Crescent, only to realize we couldn't actually digest the prize. We survived through a combination of bacterial fermentation, desperate famine, and a genetic accident in Northern Europe that kept a childhood enzyme active. This mutation turned a digestive glitch into a global industry, leading to the horrors of swill milk and the invention of the synthetic dairy lab. We have built a global economy around a liquid that the majority of the human race cannot biologically process without significant discomfort. It is a strange way to run a civilization.